Hello everyone. In this presentation we will discuss a hybrid approach for deadlock detection in distributed system. Our proposed method combines centralized sorting algorithm with distributed message passing algorithm to efficiently detect deadlock within a different sites in a distributed system. Okay, so let's talk about deadlock detection in distributed systems. Deadlock are a big problem that can cause system-wide failures and compromise data integrity. That's why detecting and resolving deadlock in distributed systems are very crucial. In this presentation, we will discuss why deadlock detection is important and review existing centralized and distributed algorithms for deadlock detection. Then we'll introduce our proposed approach which combine the strength of both algorithms and explain why we conducted our experiments. We'll present the results of our experiments comparing the scalability, network traffic, execution time of all three approaches, and finally we'll talk about what our findings mean for future research and how it can be applied in a real world scenario. Okay, so now if we want to talk about the methodology that we have used, so our study aimed to leverage the strength of both distributed and centralized algorithms. We combine the distributed algorithm which assumes the local information about a system with a centralized algorithm which assumes the global information about the system. We use Chandy-Mishra-Haas algorithm for the distributed phase and Banker's algorithm for the centralized phase. We conducted experiment to compare the performance of our approach in terms of scalability, network traffic, and execution time of those standalone algorithms. Our approach demonstrated improved effectiveness in detecting the potential deadlocks while reducing the complexity of the detection process. Okay, so now let's explore what are the current methodologies to detect any deadlock in a system. We explored two popular algorithms for detecting deadlocks, the centralized algorithm and the distributed algorithm. The centralized algorithm requires a central coordinator to collect information about all the process and the resources in the system and applies a resource allocation graph algorithm to determine if the deadlock exists. The distributed algorithm, on the other hand, relies on message passing between different nodes of or different processes in a graph. We used a modified version of Banker algorithm which simulates the allocation of resources to processes and detects deadlock if the progress cannot be made. For distributed algorithm, we use Chandy-Mishra-Haas algorithm, also known as CMH algorithm, which uses a token passing mechanism among the processes to detect deadlock. If a process holds the token, it detects a deadlock. It sends a message to all the processes to start a deadlock resolution process. Overall, our study provides insights into the strengths and limitations of both algorithms and their practical application in the real world. Okay, so finally let's discuss about our proposed approach for the distributed deadlock detection. It's called a hybrid approach because we are combining the two different algorithms to create a more efficient and accurate way to detect deadlocks in a distributed system. So to start with, we partition our system into these smaller groups of processes called sites. This makes it easier to represent a real world situation where processors share resources and dependencies within each site, but the communication and coordination between sites are required to make sure that they can access the resources they need. Now, the first algorithm we are using is a centralized topological sorting algorithm. This algorithm helps us to compute a partial order of the nodes within each site. The second algorithm is distributed message passing algorithm that propagates information about the topological ordering between sites. This helps us detect potential deadlocks that involve resources and processes in different sites. We'll be measuring the performance of our proposed algorithm by evaluating the execution time, the network traffic, and scalability. We want to compare the algorithm with other existing solutions for distributed deadlock detection. Measure the number of message sends between each nodes in the system during deadlock detection, and evaluate the performance of our algorithm as the size of the system is increased. Our hybrid approach is more efficient and effective than other existing solutions because we are taking advantage of the structure and hierarchy within the system. This helps us identify the deadlocks within each site efficiently and detect potential deadlocks between different sites using a distributed message passing algorithm. This approach has practical applications in real world systems, and our findings can contribute to future research in deadlock detection in distributed systems. Overall, we are hoping that our proposed algorithm help improve the performance and accuracy of the distributed deadlock detection. Okay, so now the first result that we have here is the execution time, and we have compared the execution time of the three approaches. The red one is the centralized, the blue one is the distributed, and the green is the hybrid approach that we have proposed. So here we can see that the centralized approach is the fastest because of having the global information, it is easier to compute or to identify if there is a cycle within a graph. On the other hand, if we look at the distributed, the CMH algorithm, so you can see it has the highest and it is linearly increasing. That is because as the number of nodes increases, there is a delay in sending the message, and also when you send a message there is a latency. Due to that, the execution time increases linearly. But in our combined approach, where we used both the centralized as well as the distributed approach, you can see it somewhat decreases, and though it also increases linearly, but the slope is not that high. Okay, now let's take a look at the scalability. And it should be pretty obvious that the centralized systems are not that scalable because they rely on a single point of control, which can become a bottleneck as the number of nodes in the system increases. But the main thing here is to compare the current distributed versus the hybrid approach. As you can see, then as the number of node increases, the scalability also decreases, but our hybrid approach is a little bit more scalable because as it uses the benefits of centralized approach, the computation becomes really easy at each node, and thus the scalability improves. Okay, so finally let's discuss about the network traffic. The network traffic measures the number of messages sent between nodes during a deadlock detection. In centralized algorithm, there is no communication between nodes, so no traffic is there. In case of distributed algorithm, we require communication between nodes, increasing the network traffic linearly with the number of nodes. As we can see here, in the hybrid approach, the network traffic is a little bit higher than the distributed approaches. That is because when we share the information between the sites, we are using a lot of data points so that we can detect the deadlocks. But you'll see later on in the conclusion that this is a point of improvement that we can make so that we can encode our information in a limited bytes so that we don't have to share that much information to detect whether there is a deadlock in the system. Okay, so finally our proposed approach for deadlock detection in distributed system involves partitioning of system into smaller groups called sites and using hybrid algorithm that combines a centralized topological sorting algorithm with distributed message passing algorithm. The partitioning of the system into sites reduces the number of messages required for communication between each node and improves the scalability. The hybrid algorithm combines the advantages of both centralized and distributed approaches, making it a practical and effective for detecting deadlock in distributed systems. This approach provides a practical and effective solution for detecting deadlocks in distributed systems, which can be more difficult than centralized systems. The distributed systems have more nodes and require more communication for deadlock detection. The proposed approach reduces the communication between nodes and improves the efficiency. However, there is still room for improvement, such as encoding the messages to reduce the network traffic that we saw in the last slide. Encoding message can also reduce the size of message and decrease the network traffic, improving the scalability. The future goals resolving the deadlock along with detecting them. Resolving deadlock automatically can further improve the efficiency of the system by reducing the need for the mutual intervention. Thank you.